Oh, isn't this Republican primary process getting fun? It's right about prime time, and a lot of you are driving home, and so audio recordings are better than written things. And this just came out from Debbie Schlussel, who is a friend who I'm close with and whom I totally trust. And she's calling out Rush Limbaugh, sort of on behalf of Donald Trump. She's not a huge fan. She's just a really honest person. I know her. I mean, I love Rush. Don't get me wrong. I run Rush Limbaugh unofficial fan group, but I also run Trump Nation on YouTube. The first of which, Rush Limbaugh unofficial fan group, is on Facebook, or Fashbook as I call it now, because you know why. Well, let me just read this to you because you're probably driving. There aren't even any comments on this yet. That's how new it is. I'm just reading you. You should see it for yourself. Debbie's very adamant that she gets credit for her work. This is her work, not mine work. I may stick in a side comment in another voice, but it's important you know this. I haven't even read it yet. I just want you guys to know it. Here it goes. It's called Once More. Despite Limbaugh denials, Rush actively pimped Rubio and Amnesty bill. Schlussel flashback with quotes and dates. Over the weekend, the New York Times published a story that everyone thought was a bombshell, but it was actually old news. And she provides a link there. That Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and other, quote, conservatives met with Marco Rubio and later pimped his immigration amnesty bill. Limbaugh is now claiming he never did, but news reports and transcripts of his show reveal otherwise. And he's even inaccurately describing his Rubio cheerleading from as recent as 3 weeks ago. I know because I reported a lot on this at the time and was largely dissed for not buying into the Rubio hype and BS. Below are the details and the quotes to prove it. All of this is probably academic because, as I've been saying since at least August and maybe July, Donald Trump will be the GOP Prez nominee. He will win big tonight as Super Tuesday results come in, but you never know. Despite all of their fighting like a bad divorce, Trump could pick Marco Kinky Boots Rubio Bubio Schmubio to be his VP. He probably won't, but stranger things have happened. Reagan and Bush hated each other, and Reagan went with Bush for VP. Debbie, you got to know. I don't know if you saw this. I was watching the rally before this adamant with a side comment, obviously. But he was calling him Little Marco at his speech in Columbus, Ohio today. By the way, he was also calling Cruz Lion Ted. Anyhow, back to what Debbie Schlussel writes. Again, DebbieSchlussel.com. DebbieSchlussel. Debbie's a slick stickler for that, and I'm going to stick in a few more of these. He probably won't, but stranger things have happened. Reagan and Bush hated each other, and Reagan went with Bush for VP. I'll stick in the fact Reagan was a lot more polite than Trump, for better and for worse. So the record must be set straight. It must also be set straight because Rush Limbaugh is engaging in a lot of revisionist history about what actually happened and what he actually said. He, Mark Levin, and Sean Hannity all bought into Rubio's Senate gangbang of 8 amnesty bill pimpitude. Now he claims he didn't. Now Limbaugh claims he never promoted the Gang of 8 immigration bill and was simply being polite to Rubio. No, not even close. And this is important because it shows how much Limbaugh thinks he can put one or more than one over on his listeners and get away with it. Back in January 2013, I was very angry when I heard Limbaugh cheerleading Rubio. I wrote about it, and I quoted the Wall Street Journal quoting Limbaugh's show, and she has a link there. And this is what that quote is. It's official. Marco Rubio and his staff told today's Wall Street Journal that Rubio's role, as I told you all along, is not to ensure that immigration amnesty also includes meaningless border security measures. It's to pimp the right on amnesty, and his, quote, working girls, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, and others, were played like violins this week. And again, while Rush tried to backpedal yesterday, on Tuesday, he told listeners after the Rubio interview, maybe we should do this. He can't claim he never said that, though he's tried. It's on the recordings and in the transcripts on his site. As I noted, the Wall Street Journal quoted Limbaugh from his show. After their 10-minute talk on his show, Mr. Limbaugh gushed to his listeners that he had gone from adamantly against the Senate proposal to thinking, maybe we should do this. Again, I'm reading from DebbieSchlussel.com, making sure I give credit. Debbie insists on it, as she should. And by the way, no one's mentioning Michael Savage with all of this. He's not a part of that crew. He's an iconoclast. He's independent. They don't like him, and he doesn't like them. And by the way, you should also sign up for Michael Savage unofficial fan group on Facebook. That's also mine. Not to mention the Daily Savage, which my man Joe Seals, who also does a lot with Trump, puts together. Debbie Schlussel goes on. And it gets worse. As I noted on January 30th on this site, on his January 29th show, the one in which he pimped us on Rubio and his amnesty bill, Limbaugh engaged in what I call the Snoop Dogg defense of Rubio and his amnesty bill, saying this to Rubio about it. What you are doing is admirable and noteworthy. You are recognizing reality. Translation, we're never going to stop illegal immigration or deport them all, so you are recognizing reality. They're going to do it anyway, so let's give them a pathway to legalization, which equals a pathway to de facto citizenship. But wait, there's even more. As I reported in June 2013, Limbaugh on his June 12, 2013 show again promoted Rubio's amnesty bill. Let me take a deep breath here. Once again, put in a pitch for DebbieSchlussel.com. Okay, here we go. Over the weekend, Rubio gave an interview in Spanish to a Latino media outlet in which he explicitly said he was for amnesty first and enforcement later. Then on Tuesday, he went on Fox News and said he didn't say that when it's exactly what he said. Just like Yasser Arafat, who said one thing to the Western English-speaking media and the exact opposite to the Arab media. So did Rush Limbaugh get upset about this 180-ing lying sack? Nope. Yesterday on his nationally syndicated radio show, Limbaugh defended Rubio yet again. He said he spoke with Rubio, and Rubio reminded him that Rubio said on the Limbaugh show that it was necessary to start the pathway to citizenship first so that the problem of illegal aliens doesn't get any bigger. Huh? And I think she has 6 question marks there. How on earth does the problem not get any bigger if you're not enforcing the border and more illegal aliens come in? This is just BS, and yet Limbaugh continues to pimp us on Rubio's pimping because Rubio is the GOP's great Hispanic hope. No other reason, and it gets worse. Today, all 8 of the Senate gangbang of 8, including Rubio, voted down an amendment from Senator Charles Grassley that would require border enforcement for 6 months first and then start the pathway to citizenship amnesty. Limbaugh mentioned that on his show today, but conspicuously didn't call out Rubio on this. It's nauseating and revealing. Does any of that sound like, as Rush claimed on his nationally syndicated show yesterday, he was just being polite and didn't promote the amnesty bill? He's not telling you the truth. Either his memory is incredibly faulty or he just thinks he can get away with feeding you manure. I vote the latter. Also yesterday, Limbaugh said that while he lectured listeners that Cruz is a conservative, earlier in February, he claimed that it was not in a discussion about immigration and had nothing to do with that. He claimed that he told listeners Rubio's a conservative because Limbaugh was angry about Ted Cruz caller. He claimed this was on a February 10th or 11th show, but in fact that's not true either. The day Limbaugh lectured listeners that Rubio was still a conservative was February 2nd. On that day, Limbaugh told listeners that he doesn't want them to think Rubio isn't a conservative just because of the amnesty stuff. He instructed listeners that Rubio is still a genuine conservative, regardless of the immigration stuff. Perhaps Rush needs to review his show transcripts more carefully and be a little more intellectually honest with listeners, again, about his constant stretching to support Rubio for no legitimate reason. The transcripts don't lie. He said what he said then, regardless of what he now claims he said then. I hate it when people lie about what they did just to save face. And the fact is that Rush Limbaugh repeatedly pimped his audience on Marco Rubio and the Senate Gang of 8 amnesty bill. The fact that he won't admit it should tell you something about the rest of what he says. You can't believe it or him. And he was willing to sell America's security and national identity down the river forever, just like Marco Rubio. The thing I just read to you, pretty much verbatim, unless I missed a word or two, which I probably did, or 15, 20 words. It's called Despite Limbaugh Denials, Rush Actively Pimped Rubio and Amnesty Bill. Schlussel Flashback with quotes, dates by Debbie Schlussel. Again, I know her personally, and her honesty and integrity is impeccable as far as I know, as much as anyone I know. So I trust what Debbie Schlussel says more than I trust what Rush Limbaugh says. I gotta be honest, even though I like Rush Limbaugh, but I trust her about as much as probably more than any famous person out there. All right, this is Adam at Trump Nation.